talking about Webadvisor. How's that? So actually, Dean Goodson approached us a few months ago, back during the summer, and he said, you know, it'd be really good if we had like a refresher series on a lot of the like software and technologies that our faculty are expected to use quite a bit. And so we started off this year by doing a little refresher on Blackboard, and we've done some other things, and we have some more things scheduled in the coming months. And we thought we would do one on Webadvisor because it is an important tool that we use. I'm going to share my screen, so I'm going to share Webadvisor, and you're going to see my Webadvisor account, basically, is what you're going to be looking at. So first question is, does everybody know how to get into Webadvisor? Is that a good question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody's good on getting into Webadvisor. A lot of people get confused because if you log into the portal, it shows up as one of the little, I don't know what they're called, the little square things, you know, clickable things, but but you still have to log in. It's not the same. It's probably not the same password as it is for the portal. Mine's not. And so, I mean, you can change it to be the same as your one in the portal, but it doesn't automatically get updated with the portal. So it's not truly in the portal. So just so that you know and don't get confused, because some people often ask about that. And it has to do with the data security and stuff of the information that Webadvisor is accessing. And so I think it has to do more with that than anything else. So they don't want to make a true part of the portal. So when you first go to Webadvisor and you log in, you will see a screen that looks something like this. A lot of times I'll go to Webadvisor and not even log in. I'll just use the prospective students window on here. So if you click on prospective students, and I do that just if I want to go and look at classes and stuff they're going to be taught, or if I'm looking up a class to see what time it's taught or something like that, without logging in, I can go do that in the prospective students area. But that's really not going to be our focus today. Our focus today is going to be on the faculty section of what you're going to see. Well, let me back up one more step. Also, I hope you guys know that if you go to the employees section, you can see things like your W-2s and your pay advices and all that kind of stuff there. Your leave summary and all those things are in the employee section. So those are useful things, but that's not really what we're going to focus on today. We're going to focus on what you can see and do in the faculty section. And probably some of the more important things that we do administratively as faculty really are all contained within Webadvisor. The one thing that a lot of people know that we're supposed to do is you get that email at the beginning of the semester from the registrar, from Jamie Childress, and it walks you through some of the steps on what you really need to do as far as students enrolling in your class is what it really means. And it's done in the same place we take attendance. And we will talk about the importance of taking attendance and how to do it and all that kind of stuff as well. So when you go to the faculty tab, this is the menu that you'll see. You can also see your advisees, although I don't use that tab very often. You can see your own class rosters. So some people use it to print out their class rosters for the first day of class. I prefer to use Datatel to do that. And when we do a Datatel training, I'll show you how to do that. At the end of the semester, you'll have to enter your grades in here, and we'll show that screen in a little bit. You can look for sections and stuff like that. But where we want to start really is by clicking on this attendance tracking link down at the bottom. And it'll come up with something like this. It's always populated with today's date. So today is the 13th of September. And I'm going to do, for attendance tracking purposes, I'm going to put in the first day that I know one of these classes met. So does anybody remember what the first day of the semester was? It was August. Anybody?
The 16th.
August 16th was the first day of class, but my classes didn't meet on Monday. My classes met on Tuesday, so I'm going to put in the 17th. And I'm just going to go to I have 2 lectures that both meet at the same time. And one of the questions is, why are there 2 things on here if it really meets the same thing? It's a bookkeeping, accounting kind of thing to keep the students separate. So if you have a class that meets at different times, so it doesn't meet like let's say it meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 to 9:50, but then on Wednesday it also meets, until 11 o'clock. You will see multiple lines on here for that class because the Wednesday is different. So if it has a lab, and you see I have one lab on here as well, if it has different meeting place, different meeting times, you will see entries for all those things in this list right here. And you need to do this for every one of those entries, right? So this is the first thing that you would do in Webadvisor once the semester starts. Go to your attendance tracking, and I put in the 17th so that you could see what I did here. This is my roster for Chem 130 LO1, and these are my students. The first thing you have to do in the semester in Webadvisor is you have to enter an E for every student that attends your class. If it's a seated class, that means they showed up to your class and you physically saw them in your class, and you put an E for that first day that you saw them. You'll notice that there's one student in my seated class. I didn't see her at all the first week of class because she didn't add the class until we'd already met the first. We were finished meeting for the first week. She showed up the first day, the second week, and so I put an E there for the next Tuesday, right? This is especially important for online classes. If you're teaching an online class, you enter an E for the day that the student submits academic work. So not just that they logged into Blackboard or anything like that, but that they actually submitted something within Blackboard that was going to be considered academic work, something that you actually had to assign a grade for, basically, right? So it could be the academic integrity quiz, it could be an orientation quiz, it could be some form of homework. It could be anything like that that you can track and say when they did something academic that first time. So this E date puts them in the course, and that counts towards our towards the numbers that we use, that we send to the state for our funding, right? Because this is where how we get our funding. Part of our funding comes from just how many students do we have taking courses. So this E date is extremely important, and that you get it in there correctly. Now the date that you put in is also important because the auditors look and they say, well, we know students that are doing online courses don't all go and do it the very first day. Most of them on the first day because it's seated class, and they all came except for the one that hadn't even been added yet. So make sure you get those E dates in early, and you'll get a reminder at the census date, which is the 10% date. You notice that I have some A's on here as well because I've been keeping up with my attendance for my class, right? So the A means that the student was absent that day. So this student added late, and she's also not really good at coming to class. She misses like a day every week, right? So it's like, okay, so this is a conversation that I can have with her and say, hey, look, you're missing like half the classes. You keep going at this rate, you're going to be in danger of me dropping you at some point in the semester. I use Webadvisor like this preemptively. I also try to do it once a week so that I can say, hey, oh yeah, she didn't, but let's say that Sarah Gonzalez had missed the entire week of class. I might have not have noticed that she missed both days because that's just not how my brain works. But if she had, and I'd be like, oh, Sarah wasn't there all week, I'd better check on her, right? And so if you find a time in your calendar, I'm not telling you to work on weekends, but it's convenient sometimes if you do it on the weekends or Fridays. I used to, when I was teaching a full load, I would often put some time on my calendar on Friday just to go in and do my attendance for the entire week, because I'd written it down in places where I had ways of keeping track of it, but I hadn't gone and entered it in Webadvisor. I found that when I enter it in Webadvisor and I put the A's in, it helps me to see when students are missing, and it tells me, hey, you need to get in touch with this student because they've missed class more than once, right? Once, everybody misses once, but when they miss 2 in a row or they've been gone for a whole week, I need to check on them and see what's going on. Does that make sense to everybody? How do you guys do it? How do you keep track of attendance and enter it in here? What's your schedule for doing that? This is the interactive part of the presentation. So you tell me how you manage to keep track of it, because that's important, because you might have a better way to do it than me.
I do it about the same way as you.
Yeah. Tiffany, you've been doing it a long time. Did you guys, I mean, you guys use some form of kind of like this as well. I mean, I've tried lots of different ways just to take attendance, because I don't like taking attendance, because I taught at universities for a long time and we didn't take attendance, but we are required to take attendance, and we'll explain why in a little bit. But yeah, it's important to do. So Cassie, how do you keep track of attendance, and when do you do it? When do you go into Webadvisor?
Because I do it because I keep it on paper. On the roster sheet, and I just fill in the date. I do a date and then list who's there underneath it. So, yeah. And then I probably only put it in Webadvisor like once every 2 months, which I know I should do better, but that's not
yeah. But if you have it on that paper, it allows you to keep track of it, right? And you can see the same thing I see in Webadvisor, because I don't keep it on paper, and so I wouldn't see, like, if they're missing 2 or 3 days in a row. I don't necessarily see that. So yeah, whatever form, it's important to know when they start missing multiples in a row. What is the point I'm trying to get at, right? So yeah, there's whatever method you use that works for you, that's what you have to do, right? So, all right, so yeah, and then people go, well, why is it important that we keep a track of attendance, right? I mean, well, a very high percentage of our students are on financial aid. And for most financial aid, attendance and being registered in the class is important, right? You don't want to give students money if they're not attending class or they're not registered for the class. So as a college, we have a policy that if a student misses 20% of the class, you may drop them from the course, right? It's not required, but it is, if you haven't heard from that student and they're not doing the work, then they should be dropped, right? The way I explain is, if I have a student that has an A or a B in my class and they only show up like every 2 weeks, but I know they're still showing up and they're doing all the work, well, I'm probably not going to drop them. But if I have another student that's got a D in the class and has missed the last 2 weeks, and I've sent them emails, I've tried to call them, I've done everything I can, and they've missed more than 20% of the class, then I'm going to drop them, right? I mean, and we'll talk about how to drop a student in a minute. So these A's allow me to see when they're missing class, and then I have to drop them. And the reason we have to drop them is because once you drop them from the course, that last date of attendance becomes very important in how much financial aid they will receive for that course. If they stay in the course and they're not attending, and then you come back later and drop them, they may owe the college some money back, okay? And that's never a good thing to have students owing us money like that, because it's not likely that they'll pay back. They'll wind up dropping out of school, and it's just not a good thing. So if you keep up with it and get them dropped at the right time, then maybe that's just the only course they drop, and they'll still be okay for next semester. But if you allow them to stay in and they owe extra money later on, that's not going to be a good thing for them, and they'll probably stop coming to school. We have some data on that, not a lot of it, but it's one of the things that leads to students not coming back the next semester, is when they owe us money. And then if we send them money out, the reason they owe us money back is because the federal government says, hey, we gave you money for Pell. You gave it to the student, but they really didn't deserve it because they weren't attending class. You have to pay us back. So then the college is supposed to take that money and send it back to the feds. Well, the feds don't care if the student paid us back or not. They still want their money. And so we still have to write a check to the federal government. And so it's really important that you get students dropped at the appropriate time, is what we're trying to get at. Where do you go to drop a student? So I'm gonna go to a different screen. I'm gonna share a different, let me stop sharing this one, and I'm gonna share a different tab. this is CC's homepage, right? And so I'm going to log into the intranet. If anybody doesn't know these, the username is CCCC and the password is COLHOME. So call home, college home, basically. I'll sign in. Don't say that. Helpful files by department is a very useful resource on here, and it will take you to a index at the top of the page. Registrar's office. If you scroll down just a little bit, oops, where is it? Now I don't see it. It's a link. Student withdrawal form. There it is. It's one of the few links on here. So there's a student withdrawal form. Did I just hear a comment in the chat? Sorry, internet's being sketchy. Sorry, Cassie. Are you in your office, Cassie, that it's being sketchy, or are you at home? Oh, must be being sketchy. Yeah. So if you scroll down just a little bit, there's a student withdrawal form. It takes you to a link. And this is the form that you must complete when you would to have a student withdrawn from your course. You have to have their first and last name, their student ID. You can get the student ID in Webadvisor. You can get it on Aviso, you know, because your roster's in there. Students' email. Students' email, if you get their first letter of their first name, first four of their last, and these 3 digits come from the last 3 digits of their student ID number. If you're not comfortable doing that, just look in Aviso and you can get their email. It's listed there. You have to put in your course name and number, or department, course number, section number. You're going to withdraw them. That's what a W means. Term. And so we're not in 2020. That's when the form was created, I guess. The correct date, so their last date of attendance. When did they last come to class? Or if they were in an online class, when did they last turn something in? Student exceeded 20% absences just means, you know, they're over the amount that they can miss. Or 2 weeks, no show, no contact is oftentimes what we talk about in distance ed. And then you can make a comment. You can say, hey, I tried to contact a student 15 times and they didn't respond, so I'm dropping them. And then all your contact information at the bottom, so that if they need to, they can contact you about why did you drop this student, right? Because sometimes a student will come back and complain. They'll get in touch with you. It's never right. If you're keeping track of attendance, that is your thing, right? I mean, they don't question it. There's been a couple of questions, a couple of times students thought they'd turned stuff in and they actually hadn't. And so the student might get back into class, but I would say in almost every case that I know of, except for a couple of rare exceptions, this is pretty much, you know, hard and fast. When you drop them, they're dropped. So that's why you have to drop students, and that's how you drop students, okay? So very important that you do that in a timely manner so that they get dropped at the appropriate time in the semester, okay? So I'm going to go back to Webadvisor, and I'm not going to submit this. I'm just going to go back to the faculty menu. One of the other things that I'm supposed to talk about today, so we did entering. So student enters your class, A's for absences, and then drop them if you need to, 20% or 2 weeks, no show, no contact. Late in the semester, at the end of the semester, after your class is finished, met for the last time, this is the faculty menu in Webadvisor. You can click on grading. Technically, you can do this in the middle of the semester and you can submit midterm grades. Oh, it's not even open now. Okay. You would use this drop-down menu and it would give you a semester on there. And see, I'm going to click on this one and see what it's going to tell me. I don't have any classes, right? So you can see that the grading for this semester isn't available. The only 2 semesters, these are Con Ed semesters right here. So Catherine, you might know about Con Ed semesters because you guys in a culinary teach Con Ed classes, right? So you might use one of
Yes.
these. You might use one of these semesters, but I don't have anything in here right now because grading isn't open yet for me because I'm teaching curriculum classes. But you can enter in midterm grades in the semester. It will become live probably within the next few weeks, so that I could enter midterm grades in here. But normally we're going to enter in end of the semester grades. So I would choose the fall semester 2021 and hit enter. And on this screen, it would have a list of my courses for the semester. I would click on that course. I would enter in grades, right? A, B, C, D, and F based upon the student's performance in the course. Those grades automatically, once you submit them, become available for students to see in their own Webadvisor login, so they can see their grades when you submit them. You don't want to get to the point of entering grades and figure out that you have students that you should have dropped earlier in the semester. That becomes problematic for the registrar's office and everybody else. If you have a student that has an incomplete, it will not take an I in there. So you have to enter in an F, and you have to fill out a incomplete form. That's on the intranet. So it's requirements to complete a incomplete, and then submit that to the registrar's office, and they will change the grade to an I until the student finishes the course, or until the deadline passes and it reverts to an F, right? So everybody's familiar with, is everybody familiar with I's? I mean, I've given a few over the years, and last year with COVID, I gave several, and I had several students finish the semester. Let's see. Okay. Well, of course you are, Tiffany. You've been teaching community college forever, longer than me. So
I'm not a dinosaur. Jeremy, I'm not a dinosaur. It's not forever.
well, you've got more than 10 years of community college experience,
There you go.
right?
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
10 years is a pretty long time, right? I mean, that's a pretty long time.
It is. It is.
Yeah. So this was supposed to be a 30-minute session, and I've been sitting out here rambling for 25 minutes. Is there anything in Webadvisor as far as attendance, entering students in, or grading that people need to know about? Yes, Tiffany.
So the one thing that I cannot figure out is how can you print off a roster? I know you said you go to DataTel, but I can't figure it out in Webadvisor.
I think people do screenshots.
That's actually what I do, but I didn't know if it was.
There's not a way to download them or anything.
Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't think so.
That's why in DataTel, you can download it into Excel directly from DataTel, and that's the way to do that. That's why I never look at my rosters in Webadvisor at the beginning of the semester.
Okay.
The other thing with Webadvisor and rosters is that rosters are changing pretty rapidly in the spring, at the beginning of the semester. So I always feel much more comfortable about going to the source, which is DataTel, as opposed to Webadvisor, which is pulling from DataTel, right? Or Colleague, if you want to call it Colleague. So Webadvisor really is just pulling all that data from Colleague, whereas DataTel is much more, that is the data. So I just prefer to go there to get my rosters. If you don't know how to do it, I can show you how to do it in DataTel. It takes 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And we will have a DataTel session coming up next month where I will show you how to do that. How's that? Because I think it's one of the really cool things to be able to get your roster into an Excel spreadsheet. And then I use that spreadsheet sometimes to do like, okay, now I'm a dinosaur, so sometimes I put grades and attendance and stuff in a spreadsheet, right? All right, watch it. Catherine, did you pass my class when you took it, Catherine? Do I need to go look up your grade and do a grade change form for you? So is she being nice to me or being mean? Catherine is a former student of mine.
I meant yes to the DataTel seminar. I need to do that, not what you just said. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, not what I meant.
It's all right. I'm just messing with you.
No,
Know
I need to
that.
sign up for the Datatel seminar if you do one.
Yeah. If you guys are going to come to the Datatel one, make sure that you talk to your department chair and that you get Datatel access before you come. Because what we'll do is we'll have everybody in Datatel and we'll be working through like, here's what you run to go look at this, and here's what you run to look at that, right? And so if you can do it in there while we're talking about it, it'll make so much more sense to you, right? Like do it as I'm talking about it as opposed to just watching me do it is way better. So
Yes.
and Datatel is one of the things that you have to get a separate access for. So make sure you talk to your department chairs and make sure that all that paperwork has been filled out ahead of time so that next month when we do Datatel, because we're going to do Datatel like right before registration opens and advising opens, because there's lots of stuff you can do in there for advising and registration. Okay, so make sure you get that access ahead of time. Fair enough? I don't even, Catherine, who is your department chair right now? Do you even have one?
It's a little bit in limbo. Chef Regina right now.
Okay. Yeah, she's the acting department chair.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, she's awesome anyway. So she'll make sure it gets taken care of if you don't have it already in place.
Yeah,
So,
she's been awesome and she's really stepped up, so she's been great.
yeah, she is. She's always been great. So I used to love talking to her about teaching and stuff. She's amazing. So yep. So that's what I have for you for today in Webadvisor. Unless you guys have questions, I am more than welcome to sit here and discuss. I don't know a ton in Webadvisor. I know how to get done what we need to get done as faculty. And that's what's important, right? You know, I mean, I'm sure there's other bells and whistles in there that, but it doesn't really do a ton except for attendance and grades. And that's what we need it for right now. So, and it beats the old way of doing it by paper. That was really time consuming and tedious, and it's way better than that. It's not perfect, but it's better. So Johnny, you got any questions or anything? You okay? Haven't said a word. You good? Raise his hand, that means he's alive. You got a question? Or is that giving me yes, you're good? Okay, go ahead.
So W and WF, which one's for, was WF for that you have to drop them, or?
WF would be withdrew failing, and W is just withdrew, right?
Okay.
Up until that 75% mark in the semester, everything is a W anyway.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter up until that point. Now, once we pass that point, everything's going to, the way we normally do is everything reverts to a WF after that 75% mark. Okay. That 75% mark is that magic mark for the feds that like they get to keep all their financial aid.
Okay.
And so we just withdraw them up to that point, and then after that it becomes a WF. Yep. That's a good question. I'd forgotten about the difference there. But yeah, it's a really good question. Anybody else? Jason, you got your hand up.
I didn't mean to. I dropped my hand down. You just answered my question, sir.
Oh, that was Jason that asked the question. Johnny has his hand up too. Yes? No? Maybe? Johnny, you're good? Okay. You put it down. Mike died. Okay. You can type in the chat if you have a question if you want. But yeah. Okay. Sounds good. So I hope you guys got a little bit out of it, a little bit of a refresher, a little bit of stuff on how to do things. So, and if you have, like I said, if you have questions, just shoot me an email or call me or something. We'll be glad to talk to you. And I'll even play, you know, I'll even come visit you or something. So I keep promising Tiffany I'll come all the way up to Chatham. I mean, I'll stop by and see Johnny on my way up to Chatham Health Sciences. So have a great week. Enjoy your students. Stay healthy. Get outside and enjoy the weather. Still waiting. I'm sorry, Tiffany. Eventually. See you guys later.
Have a good one.